It's 6 a.m. in Shanghai, 9 a.m. in Sydney, 6 p.m. here in Atlanta. I'm Lynda Kinkade in for Julia Chatterley. Good to have you with us. Wherever you are in the world, this is your first move. A warm welcome to First Move. Here is your need to know. An exclusive interview with a central witness in the Donald Trump classified documents case. He tells CNN that he handled boxes of the documents without realizing it. Israel's Prime Minister vows to push ahead with a military offensive in Gaza, as President Biden warns it could cross a red line. Dozens are injured and passengers are said to have flown through the cabin after a flight from Australia to New Zealand suffered a so-called technical problem. And the Princess of Wales apologises after admitting that she edited a photograph of her and her children. All that coming up. But we begin with a CNN exclusive. A long-time employee at Donald Trump's Florida resort is speaking publicly about the classified documents case for the first time. Known in court documents as employee number 5, Brian Butler worked at Mar-a-Lago for 20 years. He told CNN that he handled boxes of classified documents without realizing it.
And then what happened is Walt left before me. And he never goes directly to the plane. He's either in the motorcade or when he goes there with the boss, which the former president. And I remember telling him he left the club with, I didn't know what he had in his vehicle, but he waited for me at a nearby business, and I told him I would tell him when I was leaving Mar-a-Lago. So I left Mar-a-Lago. I texted him, hey, I'm on my way. He followed me. He pulled out and got behind me. We got to the airport. I ended up loading all the luggage I had, and he had a bunch of boxes.
You noticed that he had boxes?
Oh, yeah. They were the boxes that were in the indictment, the white banker's boxes. That's what I remember loading.
And did you have any idea at the time that there was potentially U.S. national security secrets in those boxes?
No clue. No. I had no clue. I mean, we were just taking them out of the Escalade, piling them up. I remember they were all stacked on top of each other, and then we're lifting them up to the pilots.
How many boxes was it?
You know, they asked me in the interview, and I believe it was 10 to 15 is what I remember. I know
being
it was
the investigators.
Correct.
And when you look back on that now, what do you?
Well, I had no clue until. Probably the end of June. There was a few different things that happened that kind of opened my eyes to, something's going on here.
So you get that unusual request. Did you ever think to yourself, why were there so many boxes at Mar-a-Lago?
For me, I'm just thinking, the former president, he has a lot of stuff he likes to lug around with him. I never would have thought it was anything like what we see now.
Classified documents.
Yeah,
CNN legal analyst Joey Jackson joins me now live. Good to have you with us, Joey. So this witness handled the car service at Trump's Florida resort and claims he unknowingly handled these classified documents. Unlike many people in Trump's inner circle, he refused a lawyer paid for by Trump. He's gone out standing on his own. How important is he as a witness, and why would he go public with this now?
Yeah, Lynda, great to be with you. I think the issue number one in terms of his importance is and why is because he's worked there for so long. You noted it, it's 20 years. What's the significance of that? The significance is he's got a lot of relationships. He certainly knows the interplay. He knows who Trump is associating with. He knows the key players that are involved. And as a result of that, he has a lot of intel, right? And he would be a person which buttresses his credibility, who would ultimately have a sense of what was happening here, have critical and close knowledge as to the occurrences here. So I think there's no question in terms of his importance is significant. As to why now, I believe what he's doing, Lynda, he being Mr. Butler, the person at issue who we're talking about, 41 years old, he ultimately is saying that he wants the people to have a sense of truth prior to the election, that this is not a witch hunt, that ultimately it's predicated upon facts that have value, that there were things that were done that were improper, untoward, inappropriate, and potentially illegal. And as a result of that, he wants to get on the record to give the indication of exactly what happened, exactly what he witnessed, and exactly what his basis and source of knowledge is in this case.
And Joey, we know that the judge in this classified documents case will hear Trump's motion to dismiss the case this Thursday. What is he weighing? Take us through the arguments for and against.
Yeah, so there's a couple. I think the first thing is that what we've all heard a lot about, Lynda, and that's this issue of immunity, presidential immunity. What does it mean? It means that the Trump people are arguing that the president is absolutely immune from prosecution. And what that would mean is that if any act that the president was involved in while he was president, right, that would certainly immunize him, shield him, prevent any prosecution against him. And so that's something we know that the Supreme Court of the United States is considering. The Supreme Court, the highest law in the land, 9 justices, it would take 5 to shield the president, right? It could be, by all you need is 5. So you can have a 5-4 vote. I think the conventional wisdom, though, is that the immunity argument is a bridge too far. And so that means that while the president may have some immunity or limited immunity, it is a lot to say that the president could essentially do whatever he wants, whenever he wants, and get away with it with impunity. So the Supreme Court will rule. But that'll be a critical argument here. The next argument, very briefly, involves the Presidential Records Act. But it's important to note in making that argument, which are essentially records that are stored while you're president. Remember, even though you get to store records as president, those records that is property of the government. And so you cannot take them on your own. So I just don't know how much weight or merit that argument will have. But I think those will be the two upon which the president's team predicates any motion to dismiss this case.
All right. Well, at this stage, this trial is meant to go ahead May 20th. So we'll see what decision the judge makes Thursday. Joey Jackson, good to have you with us from New York. Thank you.
Thanks, Lynda.